What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and today we're going to be talking about a ton of areas that are in Modern Warfare 2 already, which could be releasing for multiplayer, Warzone, or even some other game modes. Definitely stay tuned. But before we jump into that, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, drop a like, and let me know down below in the comment section, what are some areas from older Call of Duty campaigns that you explicitly remember that never ended up coming out for multiplayer or any other experience? Are there some areas that really caught your attention that you fell in love with when playing campaign that you would have hoped to have seen in 6v6, Ground War, or some other game mode? Let me know down below in this video's comment section. But as I mentioned a few seconds ago, today we're going to be going through a bunch of areas that are in Modern Warfare 2's campaign that we could end up seeing in 6v6, Ground War, gunfights, or even as a part of a new Warzone map at some point in the future, whether it's for this game's life cycle or even Call of Duty 2023. Again, Sledgehammer's new Project Jupiter, which is apparently an entirely new Call of Duty, was originally going to be an expansion of Modern Warfare 2, which ended up turning into its own standalone game. So hopefully that means the content is that strong to stand on its own 2 feet. But before we continue with any more information, let's go and take the sponsor of today's video. Now, tonight's video is sponsored by ExpressVPN. If you have trouble finding lobbies in COD 2.0 because of your region's limitations, then ExpressVPN lets you travel abroad without buying a plane ticket. Don't forget that VPNs also protect you from hackers who try to steal your private information, especially when you connect to a public, unencrypted Wi-Fi network. Don't forget that Express does put a mask around your device's unique IP address, making it much more difficult for big tech and advertisers to match your activity back to you while collecting your data. ExpressVPN also gives you unrestricted access to all parts of the internet, including those region-locked movies that you're trying to watch. I always make sure I turn on my VPN when I'm at an airport just to ensure the best security for my private data, but if you're ready to mask your device's IP address to protect your information, then check out the special link down below in this video's description or the pinned comment to get 3 months for free. But thank you to ExpressVPN for sponsoring tonight's video. Now back to the video. I know I'm a little biased with this, but one of the areas I want to talk about first is Chicago. This is the final location you go to in the Modern Warfare 2 campaign, and how perfect would it be to see some type of multiplayer experience that takes place in Chicago? I would absolutely love to see that, whether it's 6v6, whether it's gunfights. Maybe there could be a way to do Ground War, but again, in terms of story, that might not make sense, and Chicago didn't get completely destroyed in the campaign. It was just maybe one building or two that you kind of ran through with Task Force 141. So maybe one of the floors of a skyscraper could be a multiplayer map or something for gunfight. That would be interesting, but you know what? If you guys are familiar with Navy Pier over in Chicago, that's a big enough space for even a resurgence map. So hopefully, and I mean hopefully, Chicago gets some love at some point in a future Modern Warfare 2 season, because how cool would it be to see that map over in multiplayer somehow? We've never really seen a Chicago-based multiplayer map before, so why not see that here in Modern Warfare 2's life cycle? But the next area is over in the Gulf of Mexico. So we saw a lot of Mexico in the campaign, but specifically in the mission Dark Water, we have a remake of Wet Work. So I wouldn't be shocked if Wet Work does get turned into a regular map. Maybe though they don't turn it into 6v6 map, maybe they use it for gunfight, since Modern Warfare 19 did have a map that was very similar aesthetically and was for gunfight. It wasn't quite Wet Work, but it was close enough. So maybe they do the same thing for gunfight here in this game once gunfight does release at some point in season 3. But I'd be shocked to not see this area utilized somehow for the game's multiplayer. Again, not trying to be toxic or condescending or any of that nature, but I'm just a bit tired of seeing Almas reports added into multiplayer. Do it once in a while, do it as filler, do it in between major content drops, but to start off a new season with maps that are already in the game, just other game modes, that's not what I want to see. There's so many fantastic areas from campaign that could play so well in this game's multiplayer. Hopefully we end up seeing that, but we also have so much in Las Almas, right? So the first area from Las Almas that I want to go over is the prison itself. So one of my favorite campaign missions in this game took place in this prison, and maybe it's too similar to Rebirth to end up doing a resurgence map that covers this entire prison, although that would be gangster and I think would kind of be a Rebirth 2.0 in a way, a bit more than what Ashika Island is. Although that would be cool, I do hope they end up utilizing the prison to some capacity in this game's life cycle. Again, with the recent rumor that COD 2023 is going to be featuring a bunch of cut Modern Warfare 2 content, maybe that's going to be the game that has a bunch of multiplayer maps that take place in areas we're already familiar with, like Las Almas or like Mexico, like Chicago. Maybe that's going to be the case, but the prison is fairly large here in this mission, so could also see it for 6v6. Maybe they just have one cell block for gunfight. Totally open to it, but let me know how you feel about this prison down below in the comments. We then have Spain. We go to Spain briefly here in the campaign, and as you guys are probably aware, the museum multiplayer map does take place in Spain, so I'm curious if that's a bit of a hint that we're going to get more areas in multiplayer that take place in Spain. I mean, when the game first got revealed, they mentioned the following locales for the game's multiplayer. multiplayer, Almas, Las Almas, and Spain. But obviously Museum's the only map that takes place in Spain, so I do wonder if maybe in a future season we'll get at least 2 more maps to take place here in Spain. But there's some beautiful scenery in the campaign that they can definitely rip apart, whether it's for ground war, whether it's for 6v6. Hope to see that at some point in the future. But another area that I find really interesting is Urzikstan, because there was a rumor a couple of years ago that you probably forgot about, which was that the second Warzone map was going to be in Urzikstan, and that would have checked out to an extent, since Urzikstan did play a bit of a role in Modern Warfare 19's story. It played a role through some of the intel and the post-launch story, so that was a map that got rumored for quite some time, and it just never panned out to anything. So obviously we revisit Urzikstan in this game's campaign, but I'd be curious to see if Urzikstan ever gets turned into some Warzone experience. Could they just make it a ground war experience of sorts, even if it's not for 6v6? A lot they could play around with that specific area, but I find that ironic that Urzikstan has been something talked about in the community quite a bit ever since the release of Modern Warfare 19. So never say never to an Urzikstan map at some point in the future. We also have Amsterdam. Now, I'm aware that we already had Amsterdam quite a bit in Black Ops Cold War. We had it in the game's campaign. We had it over in Gunfight or Face Off. But, you know, why not do Amsterdam again, but do a different area with a different level designing, right? Not on the rooftops like we saw in Cold War, but something towards some of the streets, which would kind of match some of the level designing that we saw in Modern Warfare 19 multiplayer. Wouldn't be opposed to seeing an Amsterdam map, but again, there's just so many cool areas in this game story mode that I just hope get utilized a lot more over the next couple of seasons, instead of just seeing more ports from the Battle Royale maps. I mean, I wouldn't even be opposed to seeing some ports from Ashika Island, maybe cutting that map a little bit into 6v6 maps or a ground war experience, but aside from that, let's do something different. Let's utilize some of the beautiful spaces you guys can see here on screen. But last and certainly not least, some of the missions did feature some NVG gameplay, and the thing about NVG is that Modern Warfare 19 did utilize NVG elements quite a bit in the game's multiplayer, right? There were multiplayer maps you could play NVG with, right? Regular 6v6. There were gunfight maps. There were also, I think, areas of even ground where you were able to use NVG, and obviously we had a bit of NVG through Spec Ops. Modern Warfare 2 being marketed with NVG elements and also having some NVG gameplay and campaign, yet not having one single option to use NVG in multiplayer, that shocks me, right? Considering this game is kind of a spiritual successor to the original Modern Warfare 2, you'd be surprised with how little NVG actually got utilized in this game. So maybe NVG multiplayer just wasn't popular enough over in Modern Warfare 19's multiplayer. Maybe that's why they're not even considering doing it for this game. But recent leaks do suggest that NVG elements and NVG maps have been developed and might release at some point, right? Apparently there's a night version of Almas that could be used for either BR or for DMZ. I mean, we do have some NVG gameplay over in Spec Ops, but we gotta try this out a little bit in multiplayer. I think, again, some good filler content in between major seasons could be some variants of existing multiplayer maps, whether you change the weather, whether you make it set at night so you use NVG. I think that would be a nice change of pace for this game and will make it feel like a true sequel to Modern Warfare 19 and will live up to the name Modern Warfare 2 at the end of the day. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the areas that we have inside of Modern Warfare 2 right now, which could easily be utilized for multiplayer, Warzone, or other game modes? What are your thoughts on everything else we discussed? Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.